from the blackest corners of your mind, they call, pulling you deep into shadow, twisting your senses, keeping you from sleep. It's time to face your darkest fears. This is Tales to Terrify. Good evening, children of the night, and welcome. We've got a new giveaway to kick off this week, a little chill to help beat the summer heat. We've featured this franchise on the show before, and it brings my black heart joy to offer a chance to win the latest installment, A Quiet Place Day 1, which just released on digital. Starring Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn, this precursor to the first two films manages to take a little bit more action-packed approach while maintaining the tension that made the first two so great. The digital version also includes over 50 minutes of behind-the-scenes footage and deleted scenes. You can pick up your copy of A Quiet Place Day 1 on digital, or enter to win one by keeping your eyes on our social media this weekend. I'll be posting more details there about how you can enter, so stay tuned. Our deepest, darkest thanks goes out this week to the delightfully twisted Gabrielle Pickard and Brendan Rico, the newest members to slip behind the veil and join us on Patreon. Thank you so much, Gabrielle and Brendan. There's really nothing that warms the frozen depths of our hearts more than knowing you enjoy the tales we produce enough to help us bring them to life. If you'd like to join Gabrielle and Brendan and net yourself some perks while you're at it, head over to patreon.com/tales to terrify and join us, if you dare. We have one tale for you this evening that takes us into the depths of the Canadian wilderness in search of a terrible beast. Our story tonight comes from Caitlin A. Quinn. Caitlin A. Quinn channels the voices in her head into short fiction that has appeared, or is upcoming, in All Worlds Wayfarer, Blood and Bourbon, A Thin Slice of Anxiety, and Bending Genres. She lives in Northern California with her partner and two badly behaved Airedale Terriers, who are clearly plotting world domination. Visit her, please, at CaitlinAQuinnWriter.com. Children of the night, join me for Caitlin A. Quinn's They Slice Meat on the Right, a Tales to Terrify original.
Malachi Doyle does not like rich men, and he likes the one in whose carpeted office he waits now the least of any he has suffered so far. Robert Everett Parks takes his seat in the leather chair behind the carved wooden desk. "Sorry to keep you waiting, Doyle." This is the first lie Parks tells him today. Doyle always keeps count. He's relieved Parks has arrived without offering his hand, its palm so soft and uncalloused. It reminded Doyle of a freshly gutted liver the first time he shook it. Like most rich men, Parks is a collector of other men's hard work. The trophies that line his home, bears of every color and size, giant cats from far-off lands, stags and elk with antlers stretching half the length of walls, have all been hunted and killed by other men. Men like Doyle. Parks pushes a page torn from the Boston Gazette across the desk, its maple surface a watery shimmer. "Have you seen this?" The stiff chair under Doyle creaks as he sits forward and looks down. Beneath an advertisement for Weston and Leavitt's new Dragoon revolver is the image of something impossible etched in black ink. The smudged heading reads, "Half man, half stag, sighted in Rupert's Land." Parks misinterprets Doyle's silence. "It says I can read. An honest mistake, when so many of you Irish can't." Without offering one to Doyle, Parks takes a cigar out of a case on the desk, snips the end, lights it, and sucks until lazy and directionless patches of smoke fill the space between them. He thumps his finger down on the image. "This is what I want you to find and bring back to me. Extraordinary, truly, what our expansion into these wilder regions continues to reveal. All ripe for the taking." Doyle looks up from the torn page to the luster of avarice, bright like burnished coin, in Parks' eyes, and Parks glances away, down to the ash forming at the end of his cigar. Doyle knows his is a face no one looks into for long. Not the men who hire him, not the women he buys. His eyes, especially, unnerve. One blue, the other brown, like two different men stare out from behind them. He's tempted to tell Parks to fuck off, that he has better things to do with his time than chase some fur trapper's whiskey-fueled hallucination. But this is money. And while Doyle hates rich men, he's fond of their money. Money buys him lodging and whores, and money keeps him from having to remember hunger. He squints at the small print underneath the drawing. "This is far, near Manitoba territory." Parks makes an impatient gesture with the cigar. "Let's not belabor things, Doyle. How much? And keep in mind, I'm offering this to you first." The second lie. Doyle knows Parks has at least two other game hunters, one English, the other German, he prefers to engage. They would have passed on this, as should he. Doyle weighs his options. This is a fool's errand, but he's got no other work lined up. And there's always good game north of the St. Lawrence. He notes Parks's tapping finger, his impatience. But Doyle takes his time, as this is the only moment he ever enjoys in Parks's company. Before he speaks, he imagines gutting Parks like a beast and hollowing out his insides, which he fancies full of gold. 500 to find and kill it, with a guarantee of 200. Parks nearly rises from his chair. Ludicrous! That's nearly twice what it was for the damn polar bear. And the market is precarious at present. For God's sake, flour and grain stocks are selling off. Doyle assumes he's just heard Parks's third lie, though he doesn't know enough about stock prices and the market to know for certain. He looks down again at the image, the antlers fanning out from the oval head, the emaciated, elongated torso, slender, almost delicate fingers culminating in claws. But it's the arms, thin as broomsticks, that make him shudder, that force him to remember the place he fled, a landscape of walking corpses, their lips and chins stained green from vomiting grass. Men, women, and children, or what was left of them, with flesh stretched so tautly you could count the bones through their skin. Horror's rotting realm, worse even than the killing fields of Sabron. As a soldier in India, he had watched men die badly, yet quickly. When he returned home from war to Ireland, he watched them waste inch by inch, suffering hunger's slow bleed of hope and dignity, forsaken by the same empire for which he had butchered countless men. As the Henry Pottinger left the dock in Cobb, heading into the open waters of the churning Atlantic for America, Doyle never once looked back. But at night, as he hid from the others in the ship's engine room, that land's shriveled, unforgiving arm stretched across the miles of black water. He clawed at his ears, trying to block out the choked voices he heard even over the gasping retch of the ship's engine. Toa fis agun kadarin tu. We know what you did. Doyle's throat feels suddenly constricted and he coughs to clear it. Then get Simpson or Einhorn to do it, he tells Parks, who huffs a small, mirthless laugh in response. Doyle imagines the sound Parks would make if he were to crack his ribs open, wrap a fist around one of his spongy, wet lungs, and squeeze. 400, Parks says, stamping out the cigar in a bronze dish. 100 now is your guarantee, the rest on delivery. Plus, any reasonable expenses you incur. And I want it delivered in perfect condition. Do you understand? Doyle does. He had shot the giant white bear in the head, and Parks's taxidermist had struggled to rebuild its face. He doesn't want to, but he searches for it out of the corner of his left eye. The bear is perched on hind legs near the fireplace, head skimming the ceiling and black plaster lips open mid-roar. The snout isn't straight, and one of the eyes sits lower than the other. 3 shots to the chest, and still the beast had barreled forward. It was either a blast to its head, or have his life torn away beneath 2 tons of rage. If the decision had been left in Parks's hands, Doyle knows he wouldn't be sitting here. One less Patty in a city teeming with them. Doyle's eyes are drawn again to the thing sketched on the Gazette's page, and he wonders if it could be real. Out west, the bones of giant lizards were being pulled from the ground. Impossible monsters, all. Why not a stag that walks on 2 legs in some obscure northern reaches? But this is no stag, Doyle knows. Whatever it is, the artist who drew it has captured something hauntingly human in its black eyes. A famished misery, a maelstrom of hollowness and regret. If such a creature does exist, Doyle wonders if it isn't suffering enough already to deserve a fate better than shoring up Parks's bottomless vanity. To his own surprise, Doyle hears himself say, "Maybe it should be brought back alive." Parks huffs. "And have those bastards from the Preservation Society all over me, demanding I turn it over for their zoo? No. I want it stuffed and on display for when the New England Railway Commissioner is next here, to put the fear of God and of the Whigs into his sanctions-loving heart." On the street outside Parks's home, Doyle takes the clipping from his pocket. He stares again at the image, at the tormented eyes, the malnourished rage. until the rain begins to fall in earnest and his churning stomach sends him in search of whiskey. The tracker is young and smooth-faced. Doyle can't guess his age. He could be anywhere between 16 and 25. He and his sister, who leads the pack mule behind them, are neither Ojibwe nor Iroquois nor Cree. No one seems to know what they are, and none of the local tribes shelter them. But Doyle doesn't care. He hasn't even bothered to learn their names. He only cares that Heikkinen, the old Finn left in charge of the meager outpost at Rat Portage, vouched for the boy, claiming he's one of the best trackers in the region, and that the boy says he knows what the thing Doyle's been sent after is, and where to find it. Past the Great Lakes' northwest finger, they enter the forest's eastern border. Towering jack pines close like a fist about them, their needles brushing along Doyle's arms and legs like a bristling green skin. The air feels heavy here, throbbing with an undercurrent like breath expelled from something alive and ill-tempered. And Doyle sucks it in, registering his exhaustion. It's been a wet, humid summer, and his travel into and across Rupert's Land has been sluggish, dogged every step of the way by midges, mosquitoes, and officers of the Hudson's Bay Company. Doyle stops to take a drink from his water skin, and behind him, the girl halts the mule. He's noticed how she keeps her distance from him, and wonders if she avoids all white men, or if it's just him that makes her so wary. He looks at her openly, or at what he can see of her, given she keeps the right half of her face covered by a thick plait of dark hair, taking a small pleasure in this power to make her uncomfortable. She drops her head, and he wonders what defect she's hiding behind her hair. Doyle didn't want her along, but Heikkinen said she and the boy are twins and believe it is bad luck to be separated. The Finn claimed the girl is useful. She forages, cooks, and can keep up, won't slow him down. So far, that's proven true. But Doyle still has his doubts about having a woman on a hunt, even a native one. The boy had come to the trading outpost in search of Doyle, after Doyle had shown the image on the newspaper clipping to Heikkinen and some of the French trappers hanging about. The Frenchman had laughed. "Ridicule! Écoutez-moi, Irlandais. You'll find dear woman out there. Be sure to bring her back for Gaspard here to fuck. He's grown tired of Cree shit." Doyle chided himself for expecting any other response, for his hope that this thing he's been sent after is real. So be it. He had $100 of Parks's money, and he was in one of the best hunting regions in the Northeast. He'd find and kill something here that would fetch him more money, either from Parks or some other rich bastard who wanted a prize to line his wainscoted study. The next night, as Doyle drank the Finn's piss-colored whiskey, the boy came to him. He studied the image on the clipping with dark, downcast eyes for so long, Doyle was tempted to tear it from his hands in frustration. When the boy handed it back, he said, "Windigo, I take you." Doyle sounded the strange word in his head, the name of this thing. Inside him, its syllables rang hollow, like breath blown through a rifle's empty muzzle. "What is it?" Doyle asked. The boy stared at him, his dark eyes glancing back and forth between Doyle's different colored ones. Doyle clenched his jaw, feeling as though he were being measured. "Something that needs to die," the boy said. Doyle then spent some time arguing over his tracking fee, but only half-heartedly. though what he agreed to pay in the end amounted to more than the boy was likely to earn the entire rest of the season. It was still a pittance of what Doyle was due from Parks, if he could find and kill this thing. This Wendigo. Also, it gave Doyle a certain satisfaction to be magnanimous with Parks's money, considering it a thievery of sorts. Later, as Heikkinen was cleaning up for the night, tossing the contents of the spittoons out the door, he told Doyle, "Don't stay long in those far northern woods. Men have been known to lose themselves there." Their second day in the forest, the boy finds the first set of prints. Doyle stares, trying to make sense of them. The marks have been made by a hoof, or part of them have. What is sunk deepest into the wet earth are the two tear-shaped halves of a large bull moose's hoof. But what encases the print resembles the outline of a man's foot, though one oddly thin and elongated. The boy's voice is cutting, almost accusatory, when he says the word to Doyle this time, "Wendigo!" A trail of the strange prints continues for what Doyle calculates to be a quarter-mile before ending at the edge of a river. At first, Doyle assumes this to be the work of the French trappers, mocking him. He wonders if the boy has conspired with them, seeks to make a fool of him. A barefoot man could have stepped deliberately over the tracks of a moose and made such a thing. But to do it over this distance feels an excessive length for a prank. And the boy seems openly agitated to Doyle. His eyes scan the trees alongside and ahead of them. He's unsheathed his knife and sniffs heavily at the air, which has changed, taken on a musky quality. Doyle catches a look passing between the boy and his sister. Whatever silent words been said has her frightened. Her one uncovered eye is wide, her hand tight on the mule's lead rope. At the spot where the tracks stop, the river is deep, its water moving quickly. Doyle doubts anything, including the tallest moose, would have ventured to cross here. But there are no other tracks anywhere to suggest otherwise. In search of a fording spot, Doyle walks downstream along the bank and sends the boy upstream. In case the boy thought to steal from him or had some sabotage in mind, Doyle's taken the girl and the mule with him, despite the boy's protests and the girl's balking. The cocking of Doyle's rifle ended that negotiation. Doyle walks behind the girl. He keeps a close eye on her as he scans the trees, looking for movement within their shadows. He hears a whispering that he thinks at first to be the rustling of pines, then realizes it's coming from the girl. Her fingers are knotted about the mule's bridle. "What's that you're saying?" Doyle asks her. She flinches, her head barely turning in his direction. The whispers stop. After a time, Doyle tells her to halt. Daylight is slipping, and he wants to get back to a clearing he spied earlier to build camp. They'll pick up the search tomorrow. Something inside him doesn't want to be near this river at nightfall. That's when he hears the breaking undergrowth behind them. Doyle swings his rifle in the direction of the noise. He can't see anything but can feel it's there. Something menacing. The air has a bad smell. Sulphurous. Rotten. Doyle stands completely still, ready to fire. That's when the boy calls out, walks slowly from the cover of the trees, his hands held out in front of him. He comes to a stop before Doyle, glancing anxiously at his sister. Doyle glowers, angry at this disobedience. He lowers his gun and clips the boy hard across the face with the back of his hand. The girl cries out. The boy makes no sound, just cuffs at his bloody nose. At the camp they've built for the night, the girl skins, guts, and roasts the rabbits Doyle shot that afternoon. She makes some hand gestures over the innards, her lips moving silently, and then she buries them. Watching her while he sorts through the contents of his bullet pouch, Doyle wonders what heathen god she worships, and whether it gives more of a shite about her than the Blessed Virgin did his mother, despite her incessant prayers. The boy has been sullen since receiving Doyle's blow. Doyle doesn't mind. It's important, he knows, to maintain authority. A beating or two always works best. The English army captains taught him that much. Rough men who, when the mood struck, might knock you senseless just for being Irish. Papist scum. Doyle feels a weariness in his bones, as if their marrow has been sucked out and the hollow centers replaced with lead. Though he's just turned 35, he suddenly feels much older. The day's exertion and his eruption of violence has also spurred in him a deep, discomfiting hunger. Unwound it from where he keeps it coiled, the memory a snake ready to devour its own tail. Doyle tears apart the largest rabbit for himself, burning his fingers, unable to wait for the meat to cool. He leaves the boy and his sister to share the second, smaller one. He washes down the last bit of thigh meat with whiskey. The boy and his sister, huddled closely together, eat slowly, quietly. The boy speaks to her in low tones. Doyle can't make out the sounds, can't even determine what language it is. The girl answers her brother with a look from her uncovered left eye. Doyle points a finger. She ever speak? No, the boy answers. French tonight. English at other times, Dutch here and there. Doyle has noted how the boy, when spoken to, responds in alternating patterns of yes, no, oui, non, ja, ni, as though he's weighing each language for the best answer. Or maybe they're all one jumble to him, the shared tongue of outsiders. Men with guns, money, and the certitude of their superiority. A grayish-yellow light, the color of an infected wound, oozes along the eastern edge of the sky when Doyle's cramping bowels wake him. He clutches his abdomen, hurries behind a juniper bush, spills stinking sickness from his body. When he finishes, he's slick with sweat, and his clothes cling to his skin. He hears the heavy breathing of an animal and berates himself for leaving his gun by the fireside. The sound is coming from the mule, whose head hangs low. As Doyle approaches, it lets out a braying whimper and tries to pull away from the tree to which it's tied. There's blood all down its rear left leg, coming from a ragged gouge 6 inches across its hind quarter. Though the sun is only starting to rise, the flies are gathering on the wound. There's a rank smell about the mule. It's not the scent of blood or infection, but something musky, gamey, rotting. Doyle tries to think what could have done this. Come into the camp without waking him. And why didn't the mule bray and scream? Not enough meat was taken to sate a bear, cougar, or wolf. A wolverine or a lynx, then? But they're not likely to attack something so large. And why take only a portion of meat and not kill the mule outright, as though whatever did this were sampling a taste of it? He speaks softly to the injured animal and tries to examine the wound, but the mule brays and snaps its teeth at him. The boy is at his side. He runs a gentling hand along the animal's neck and spine. The mule settles back into its raspy breathing. The boy leans toward the wound, turns his bruised face up at Doyle and says, "Wendigo!" Doyle acknowledges the hatred in the boy's eyes, feels a begrudging respect for it, then glances at the ground. There, encircling the mule, are the hoof footprints. It's mid-morning when Doyle shoots the mule. The girl had been able to coax it forward for the half a mile they'd traveled downstream, but then it refused to move again, not even shuddering when Doyle beat it with a stick. They divide up the supplies, repacking them in satchels they each balance now on their backs. Doyle is impressed with how much weight the girl can carry. Before they leave the mule's carcass, she slices long strips of meat from its belly, but Doyle makes her leave them, remembering his sickness, not trusting the meat won't be tainted by the time they can stop to smoke it. In another mile, the river finally slows, butting up against a beaver dam. Holding his rifle above his head, Doyle wades across in hip-deep water. The boy follows, water up to his waist, the girl up to her chest. They trek several hours upstream before the boy finds the tracks again. This time, they end at the bottom of a steep rocky outcropping, as though whatever they have been following has scaled the rocks like a goat. Neither the boy nor Doyle have climbing rope, so they'll need to find another way up. But it's nearing sundown, so Doyle marches them back to where they can set up a new camp. The girl spears 3 good-sized trout in a nearby stream. After she cleans them, Doyle watches her make those same hand gestures over the fish heads and guts, her lips moving silently before she buries them. Her one revealed eye darting back and forth like a black minnow between Doyle and the tiny burial mound. His mouth waters, waiting for the fish to roast. When the smell of cooking trout reaches him, Doyle's stomach clamors. He pierces one side of a roasting fish with his knife, brings it to his mouth. The outside skin is hot and burns his lips and tongue. He pants through the heat. The inside of the fish is still raw, its orangey-pink flesh stippled with white lines of fat. The meat is spongy between his teeth, and his mouth remembers things his mind doesn't want to. He swallows and swallows. He's halfway through the second fish when the retching begins. Feels his stomach twisting, imagines it's trying to pull itself free and climb up his throat. He runs like a frantic beast, reaching a thick patch of wood fern before he throws up the half-raw fish. He's afraid to look at his mess, afraid that he'll see among it the quivering membrane of his own innards. That night, Doyle dreams of being hungry. Hungry in the way he swore he would never be again. His stomach is a separate entity inside of him, demanding, tyrannical. It speaks to him, and he hears its voice both within and outside his body. "We know what you did." Doyle wakes in a sweat, presses hands to his belly, feels its rumbling urgency, an aching, painful emptiness, as though buckshot has been fired into him by some unseen gun and his entire being is draining out through the wound. He throws off the blanket and hurries to the tree where they've hung their supplies. He unties the rope, and the pack falls to the ground. He pounces on it and finds the loaves of flat bread the girl had fried in beaver fat. He swallows piece after torn piece without tasting until his throat is so dry, the bread sticks there and threatens to choke him. All this trekking for miles and miles. Thick, malodorous air. The constant vigilance because the goddamn boy can't be trusted. Vomiting up his supper. No wonder he's so hungry. At the edge of the stream, he lays on his stomach like a beast, his face in the water, lapping and sucking. Barely sated, he rolls onto his back, pants like a dog, and watches through black spruce branches as a scudding cloud points a murky, skeletal finger at the moon. When his breathing settles, he stumbles back to the low fire, wraps himself in his blanket, and pulls his rifle in close to his side, where it lies like a stiff, resistant woman. Across what's left of the fire, from where she's nestled against her brother, the girl's one eye watches him. It's black and glittering, like that of a bird. Hunger burns a hole in Doyle's belly as he trudges up the incline. He ate 4 tins of beans in the morning, and still he salivated for more. As his legs carry him forward, he stares at the boy's back several paces ahead and tortures himself with thoughts of food. Of the lamb stew at the Warren Tavern in Boston, fried cod in the Back Bay, even the waste of meat left on the mule they abandoned, surely devoured by wolves already. Doyle's clothes feel differently on his body, as though they belong to another man. The waist of his pants roomier, the sleeves of his oilcloth coat somehow shorter. He remembers how, once he reached America, vomited onto the docks in East Boston, he spent nights haunted by his own flesh. Running his hands over arms, belly, and legs, frantically checking if they were withering again, kneading muscle, pinching skin, registering every inch until his own body felt like something outside himself, without any meaning, the way saying one's own name too many times turns it into an empty, random string of sounds. At midday, the boy finds the tracks again, heading out from the top of the rocks. They lead to a clearing where a row of fir trees has had long patches of bark scraped away. The pattern is consistent with stag rub, but Doyle notes that where these trees have lost their bark is too high up for any stag to reach, no matter how large. The raw, rough parts of the trunks start at the level of his eyes and extend a good 3 feet higher, almost to where the first boughs begin. The girl starts her whispering again. She picks up soil from the ground, smells it, and drops it with a cry. "What is it?" Doyle asks the boy. The boy points upward. "Throw it!" Bad place. Doyle is surprised to hear Irish words tumble from the boy's lips, but before he can react, a strong gust of wind sweeps in, and Doyle tilts his head upward to see and hear the bones tied together that hang from the tree's upper branches. The fibula of an elk tied to the skull of a black bear, a bobcat's skull dangling at the end of a wolf's spine, a dozen more swaying, assembled monstrosities. The rotting smell is back. It balls itself like a fist in Doyle's open mouth. Doyle slides his rifle off his shoulder, cocks it, and waits. His stomach is alive, burning with fear, throbbing with hunger. When he catches sight of antlers rising behind a bush ahead, his finger tightens on the trigger but doesn't pull it. He remembers that moment in Doyle's office, that fleeting sense of something near pity for whatever this thing is. Then the boy hisses in his ear, "Madig E!" Kill it. The sound of the firing bullet cracks the air. Something large staggers in the undergrowth before Doyle hears it hit the ground. He loads another ball bearing in the rifle as he moves carefully forward. Alongside him, the boy holds his knife. For just a moment, Doyle suspects the boy might try to use it on him. Wonders if he would be that foolish. On the ground behind the bush is a stag. The bullet's gone through its head. Doyle kicks its hindquarters. When it doesn't move, he leans down and puts his hand on its warm flank. Saliva pools in his mouth and spills down his chin. That night, Doyle dreams he's back in Kerry, in what's left of his family's cottage. His sister and mother are skeletons shivering beneath a shared, tattered blanket. Their eyes are sunken, lips drawn back from their useless mouths. The fire's gone out, and he's freezing cold. He'll need to muster the energy to dig more turf to burn tomorrow. His mother's breathing is jagged, labored. She's trying to push off the blanket. Doyle tells her not to, that she'll be too cold without it. He makes to gather the ragged thing more tightly around her when he sees the blood soaking through it. He doesn't want to, but he lifts the blanket. Underneath are the exposed bones of his mother's and sister's legs, where the flesh has been carved away. Curled on his side, Doyle wakes to the sound of an animal's heavy panting. He feels its muggy breath on his cheek. He recoils at the pummeling scent of rot. Out of the corner of his eye is the curve of an antler tine. His fingers wrap around his rifle's bolt. In one move, he twists himself upright, the rifle cocked. But nothing's there. Doyle looks around. On the other side of the smoldering fire, the boy and his sister are pressed together, sharing a woolen wrap and the rhythmic breath of sleep. Doyle's heart races, and his body convulses with emptiness. He can feel his ribs contracting, embracing whatever is writhing inside him. He falls upon the dangling strips of deer meat hanging over the fire smoke, gorges himself, devouring all. The abyss inside him is a gaping maw, a serpent shedding its skin in endless succession as it grows ever larger. He's soaked in sweat and doesn't remember walking to the tree or cutting the rope to the supply packs. But soon he's prying open every can of beans with his knife, pawing their lard-thickened contents into his impatient mouth, swallowing without chewing. There's no bread to be found, only flour. He lifts the sack and pours the gritty powder down his throat, choking, half suffocating on it. He remembers the giant tapeworm the army surgeon in India pulled from the stomach of a dead Punjabi boy. A pale, glistening mass of winding strands. He wonders if such a thing is inside him now, stretching and pulsating, demanding to be fed. There's a scream. Doyle bolts upright, races to his forgotten gun. The shriek sounds again. In it, Doyle hears the yowl of an animal in pain, also the anguish of a man. The boy and his sister are awake. They sit as still as death. "Wendigo," the boy says, and Doyle hears something different in the boy's inflection this time. The word sounds more a request than assertion, a summoning. Doyle cocks the rifle, heads in the direction of the scream. The muscles in his arms shake with the gun's weight. His knees wobble. His pants slip from his narrowing hips, and he stops to cinch his belt tighter. But there are no smaller notches in the leather, so he hastily knots the belt instead. His vision clouds and his ears ring. He's on his knees, though he doesn't remember falling. He clutches the rifle, his hands slick with sweat. He's too ill to move forward. His insides feel like they're on fire as he stumbles back to the camp. The girl is staring at him from her one eye. He remembers her silent, moving lips, her strange hand gestures, how she pretends to avoid him when she's actually watching him, studying him. Whatever this is, whatever is happening to him, it's her fault. She's prepared the food he's eaten. She's prayed to some heathen god to curse him. He blisters with anger, points his rifle at her. "What have you fucking done to me?" Molten rage pours from his throat. He doesn't recognize the sounds he's making. The growling yawp, the rumbling bellow. He raises the rifle, cocks the hammer. He aims it at the girl and makes to pull the trigger, but his fingers are somehow in the wrong place. He slides his wrist back so his twitching knuckle can find the trigger. But then the boy is in front of her, grabbing at the rifle's barrel with one hand, his other coming at Doyle with the knife. Doyle howls when he feels the blade slice his chest. When the gun goes off, it blows a hole through the boy's throat. The girl screams and runs. Doyle gives chase, amazed at the sudden speed and strength in his legs. He overtakes her quickly, crushes the left side of her face against a thick spruce trunk. He lifts her heavy braid, sees the red, puckered mess of her face, the clouded, blind eye. He hungers for her, presses his hips against her, sinks teeth into her ruined skin. Her blood fills his mouth with the taste of earth and sweetness. She goes limp, but her lips move, making her secret prayers. He feels her warm breath on his lips. He screams when a pain in his head doubles him over. Something awful pushes against his skull from inside. He hears bone and skin break open, feels a wet warmth trickle down his temples. The girl slips from his grasp, runs away into the night. He wants to go after her, but he's in too much agony. The crush of hunger returns, even stronger. The pain in his head forgotten, he's on his hands and knees, ripping every growing thing from the ground beneath him, stuffing all into his mouth. He gags and spits up, reaches long, thin fingers down his throat where a twisted root is stuck. It scrapes his insides as he pulls it free. The claws at the end of his fingers rake the earth for insects. They squirm as he swallows. He lifts his aching, heavy head at the scent of the boy's blood and follows it back to the camp. Gore paints his heaving chest as he feeds. His face is buried in the boy's center, teeth pulling apart the liver with a wet snap when the boy speaks to him. At first, the words are no more than rustling pine needles, the flapping wings of an owl. But then Doyle hears it. "We know what you did." He had kept the bodies of his mother and sister wrapped in rags, so he wouldn't see the exposed bones of their legs and arms, from where he had stripped away what paltry flesh had been left on them. He gagged and sobbed the first time he ate, threw this gift of them back up. The second time had been easier. The meat cooked longer. He only needed enough to build back some strength, to be able to take the road to Cork for the sailing. He parceled out their flesh, moved their bodies outside to the empty cowshed, the better to keep in the cold. That was where the priest, come round looking for old nails to mend the church door, had found them. His words chased Doyle as he ran. They slice meat on the right, but are still hungry, and they devour on the left, but are not satisfied. So did Isaiah declaim the depravity of the sinful. He stayed off the roads, kept hidden. So many dead. Wakes held every night in every village. The corpses laid out on tables like an invitation. It took no time at all to cut away part of an arm or thigh. Quiet as a mouse he was, into and out of the dark, crumbling cottages. Sometimes someone would hear, stumble awake and see him. But he was stronger, faster, better fed. All they had were their shouts. May the devil take you! We know what you did! Word spread of the ghoul of Gaugen. Prayers were made to Saint Finbar to keep the departed safe, their bodies sent to heaven whole and undefiled. Doyle robbed and killed a man in Cork City for the steamer fare. On the banks of the River Lee, he roasted and supped on the man's kidneys. The next day he would board the Henry Pottinger for a new land, and could forget about what he had done here in this green, starving hell. After all, he had only done it to survive, and but for this last one, they were already dead. But now, in this unfettered moment, the feast of the boy half devoured beneath him, he can admit to what has chased him across an ocean and sat each night, glaring-eyed, upon his chest here in this new world, in this new life. He had grown to like the taste. It's been a grueling negotiation, and Robert Everett Parks is now a spent man. At 9:30 in the evening, the Railroad Commission representatives and their lawyers finally leave, after having picked his bones clean, of course. From the crystal decanter in his office, Parks pours himself a brandy. He catches his reflection in the mirror above the liquor table, winces at how much gray is in his hair. He offers a glass to his attorney, Hammond Gilchrist, who declines. A terrible business, Gilchrist says, but I'd say we're true to our stuff it. No other lines are likely to bankrupt, and Buchanan is set to release paper funds back into circulation. You'll be whole again soon. Parks huffs. Said the eagle to Prometheus. He walks Gilchrist down his hallway lined with rhino and caribou heads, wolves frozen mid-snarl, a Bengal tiger with yellow glowing eyes. In the foyer, a waiting servant hands Gilchrist his hat, helps him put on his coat, and then disappears quickly. Gilchrist is about to take his leave when it sees it again. The monstrosity Parks keeps in his foyer, to the left of the grand staircase. Good God, Parks! That thing gives me a fright every time. I don't know why you have it. Parks looks over at the gangling creature, the last and best of his acquired trophies. Horrible, isn't it? Yet also magnificent. Cost me a small fortune. I made the mistake of first sending out an Irishman to fetch it. Bloody thief took off with $100 of my money and was never heard from again. Gilchrist shakes his head and makes a knowing sound in his throat. Then I secured the services of Herr Gerhard Einhorn, Parks says, raising his glass. Here's to German diligence and gumption. What does Mrs. Parks make of your acquisition? Parks takes a long sip of brandy. Mrs. Parks and the children have been spending the year at her parents' home in Newport. She says she'll return once this unsettling business has been concluded. And when I've delivered him, Parks points at the creature, to the care of the Natural History Society. Seems the proper place for such a thing. Why not just do that? Because, dear Ham, these pompous asses had the gall to accuse me of fakery. That this wonder is a fabrication parceled together by my taxidermist. Gilchrist rubs with his thumb at a patch of dust on his hat before placing it upon his head. Then send your taxidermist round to them, to set the record straight. Parks sighs. I would, except the man has conveniently disappeared. Sent word that he'd finished with this, and then took himself off to only God knows where. Left no forwarding address. Gilchrist studies the creature. Shocking. Well, I'm no expert, but I don't know how anyone could, or would, dream up such an awful thing. After Gilchrist leaves, Parks calls his brother Davenport to draw him a bath. But before he retires upstairs, Parks moves closer to his prized possession. He takes in the narrow, emaciated torso. The long, slanting scar across a chest covered in a sparse, russet fur. The rangy legs. The bony arms that end in claws, but it's the large oval of a face, weighted by a crown of antlers spreading 5 feet out on either side, that transfixes him. And the eyes. Parks will never admit it to anyone, but he can only look at those eyes, one brown, the other blue, for so long before he feels a creeping dread. No more than that, a disconcerting familiarity. Feeling suddenly peckish, Parks decides he'll summon Mrs. Carrington to fix him something to eat before bed. He tips his brandy glass toward his treasured monstrosity, this grotesque paean to his success. Good night, old chum.
That was Caitlin A. Quinn's They Slice Meat on the Right, as read by James Cheatham. Born and bred in the USA, James has literally been around the world and back again. He is a retired military veteran that has been to war 4 times. Now, he narrates audiobooks full-time. He started back in 2018 with some divine direction and is absolutely loving it. Thank you, James. Well, children of the night, the hour is late, and we've run out of tales to tell. For now. Tales to Terrify is made possible by the tremendous generosity of our supporters on Patreon and PayPal. Incredible fans like Lestle Baxter, Amanda Carrillo, Amanda Gottfried, and Orion D. Hegre, whose generous support keeps these lights on and flickering ominously. If you're not a supporter, head over to patreon.com/Tales to Terrify. You'll find all kinds of perks, like ad-free episodes, bonus content, and one-of-a-kind collectibles. Every dollar goes back into this show, and we appreciate your support so much. Want another way to support the show that doesn't cost you a cent? Head over to Podchaser, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts and drop us a 5-star review. You'll not only put an unnaturally wide smile on our faces, but help new listeners discover our terrifying tales, too. You can show your love of the show out in the world with some Tales to Terrify merch. TalesToTerrify.com/merch will take you to our TeePublic store, where we've got a great collection of creepy custom and curated designs. Tales to Terrify is produced by Seth Williams, Meredith Morgenstern, Andrew Gibson, Crystal Hammond, Spencer Disparti, and myself, Drew Sebastini, with original theme by Nebulous Entertainment. Tales to Terrify is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Join us again next week as we give in to desperation with more Tales to Terrify.